How to add standard charges and stock items in PPS. When logged into PPS, click on the Tools option at the top of your window and then click on Lookup Tables. When in the Lookup Tables, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner you've got a section titled Accounts Tables, and right at the top you'll see an option for standard charges and stock items. So if you highlight this option and click Open, it will then give you a list of all of your existing charges or stock items. On the left hand side you'll be able to filter if you've got a large list by different types, categories, suppliers. And any of these charges we can modify, delete or export, and right at the bottom we also have the option to add. So if I click on to add, it will then start the process of me adding a new standard charge or stock item. And when in this window, I can just work my way through from the top of the screen to the bottom. So the first option here is to pop in a description. Now, if it is a standard charge, so if it's something that's going to be associated to an appointment type, for example, then you don't need to worry too much about the description, because the appointment type is what will appear on the client's bill. But if it's a stock item, the description here is what will appear on the final bill. So if I pop in my description, I can then move to the box just below there where we can create a code. So this is a unique identifier for this charge, which can be letters, numbers or a short description. And what it does is allow you to use that code to bring up this charge when you're raising a charge or an invoice in PPS. So for example, I can pop in AT here. The code can be anything you want to use. There's no strict rules or ways to go about this particularly. So the next option is to choose or enter in a charge type. So if you're already using charge types, you'll see there's a drop-down menu of all of your existing charge types that you can choose from. So for example, I can pop in treatment here. If it's a brand new charge type, or if you've not used charge types previously, you can simply type into that box, and when you save this charge, that will then be added to that list, and you can then choose it from a drop-down menu in the future. So the next option here is then to add the fee, so whether that's a net charge and you choose a VAT code, or whether that's a gross charge, just choose whichever is appropriate for you and fill out the relevant box. And then we can move on to just below there, we also have the option for procedure codes. Procedure codes mainly come into play if you are billing to a third party and if you use health code. So a procedure code would typically be provided by the third party insurer, so health Bupa or AXA, for example. They'll have a list of standard procedure codes and diagnosis codes and that kind of thing, which you can get, which would relate to your treatments or charges here. Just underneath there we also have the option to add a note. So again, that's just optional if you want to be aware of anything specific about this charge. Or right underneath there, a bit more obvious would be to add a warning. So if it is something that your staff need to be aware of when raising this charge, if you pop anything in the warning box, that will pop up on screen each time they raise this charge. So just below there we have the filters section. So if this charge only relates to one particular practitioner, one particular location, or one particular invoicee type, or a combination of the three, you can set that by choosing from the drop-down menus here, meaning that when we actually come to bill, this charge will only be available as per the filters that you've set here. And just on the right hand side we also have a follow-up section. So this is where we can schedule a reminder based on this particular charge. So I see this used most typically when people are trying out a new stock item or a new treatment. So they can schedule, say, an email to go out a couple of weeks after this charge has been raised, just asking for feedback perhaps on the new stock item or the new treatment. It's a great way to get your clients involved, prompted by a charge rather than a treatment. And we can do that in the normal way by selecting the amount of time that we want between raising the charge and sending out the reminder. We can choose the template and then how we'd like to schedule that. So the next option down is Cash Desk Quick Buttons. So when using the Cash Desk, you'll know that on the right hand side we have a list of buttons that we can click on to drop a charge into our Cash Desk. And this Cash Desk Quick Buttons section here determines where this particular charge appears in that list. And then right at the bottom we have the option here to turn this item into a stock item. So if it isn't a treatment charge, we can then click this box here that says this is a stock item, and then we have some additional options. So we can set a minimum stock level here and the current stock level. So once we've been in and counted up the existing stock, we can set that level here. We can set a reorder quantity so that when we do get close to that minimum stock level and we get a warning, so we can tick that show warning box. We can also be aware of that reorder quantity. We can allocate a supplier, so where we're purchasing that stock from at the moment. And then we can also record things like the unit purchase cost, so we can look at the margins that we're making on the sales of these stock items. And we can include a prompt for a batch number. And we can also make it mandatory to enter a batch number. So if you are using anything that may have an expiry date, or batch numbers in case anything in worst case scenario would be recalled, we can record that batch number so that when we're dispensing those products we would know which clients have had them and who we would need to contact if necessary. And once you've filled out all of that information, if you click on to save, that will then add it to your list of standard charges and stock items. If we then select that treatment charge and click modify, you'll notice in the top right hand corner we also now have the option to set a price profile. So before we save the charge, this button was greyed out, but if we then come back into it by clicking modify, if I click onto price profiles, it brings me to this window here, which will be blank the first time that you're using it. And this allows me to set up a price profile for this charge, which allows me to set varying prices depending on things like the location and the practitioner and the invoicee. So if I have a couple of clinic locations and the price is different in each location, or perhaps if I have a senior or a junior practitioner and again they charge different for the same treatments, I can set that all up in my price profiles so that when I'm actually coming to the billing, so completing an appointment, I don't need to be checking things like the practitioner or the location. PPS can do that automatically for me and I don't need to adjust any charges. So if I click on to add a new charge price profile, I can then choose from my drop down menu of locations if applicable, practitioners if applicable, or an invoicee if applicable. And again, I can choose any combination of those three items. So if I, for example, just in this scenario want to set a higher price for our senior practitioner, I can select my practitioner from the drop down menu and then pop in the price at the bottom here. We can also add an additional procedure code if you need to. But once you've filled out all of those details, if I click on to OK, you'll notice it's then saved that to my price profiles. And I can continue to add additional price profiles if I need to, so each charge can have more than one price profile. But when I'm done with that, if I click on to close and save that charge as normal, then those features or settings will be available for the next time that I come to use this charge when I'm billing.